Now, once you get into day three and you get into rounds 5, 6, 7, we start getting into steal territory, right? Where it's like, man, how did this guy fall that far? And, that's the case, I think, with the next guy we're going to talk about because Saturday afternoon, of course, Gamecocks had a doubleheader in baseball. I'm sitting there watching, but of course, had an eye on the NFL draft because we had a couple of guys, Shi Smith, Israel McQuamu, and Sedarius Hutcherson were really the three. I'm like, okay, they're going to go today. And we kept waiting and we kept waiting and we kept waiting. And you started thinking to yourself, my God, how has Shi Smith not gotten picked yet? Shi Smith goes, though, finally, 6th round, the 204th pick overall to who else but the Carolina Panthers. Again, they should just call them the University of South Carolina Panthers. Either way, though, Panthers pick up Shi Smith. And again, everybody, all Gamecock fans at least are saying this is a steal. This dude is going to flourish at the next level. And I tend to agree. I think he's going to be a really, really nice slot guy at the next level. But you said, can't believe he fell so far, but cool, he stays home. Nasty release repertoire, absurd body control, and 50-50 ability for a small guy, and nasty yard after catch. He's a steal and one of the feistiest in the class. You gave him the grade overall, an A+ grade. So you love the pick. Talk about Shi Smith, what you like, what you see from him, and again, him translating into the next level in that Panthers offense.
Shi Smith's one of my favorite players to watch in this class. I love a guy who just plays angry, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because you don't see that necessarily as much. You throw on Shi Smith tape, and he is fighting like, okay, he's 5'9", 186. Obviously, he's a slot receiver, but he fights and attacks the football like he's 6'5". His contested catch ability for a smaller guy is wild. And I mentioned the body control in the tweet. You can see throughout his career at South Carolina, him making just jaw-dropping grabs, and that comes down to body control. And now there will be concentration drops from time to time, but I'm not super worried about that. And he tested fairly well. I think he actually ran a little faster than I was expecting. He ran a 4.46, because a lot of the time he creates separation through beautiful route running. Through his release, he can win off the line of scrimmage immediately. And the release for a receiver is one of the more underrated pieces, because I think everyone's just not paying attention to what happens right off the bat. But he's got a deep repertoire in terms of he can beat. He's not big, but he can beat press man coverage because his feet are so sweet. He knows how to set up a route. He stems routes unbelievably. And then what he does as a smaller guy, he blocks his ass off despite a lot of receivers who don't love to do that. And despite his size, he's kind of got, I mean, that's 3 South Carolina prospects in a row where I'm going to say they're kind of alphas. They've got the mentality you look for in a pro football player. They play the game like they love the game. And part of the reason I think he slid is because this draft in general was really deep with slot receivers. So I think some teams were waiting because there were just so many that they could address other positions and know for Carolina, for example, to come back in the 6th round and get a guy who I think is going to maybe not right away, but I think he's going to be a starter at some point. They have Robbie Anderson. They have DJ Moore. They draft Terrace Marshall. So there's not going to be a ton of pressure for him to impact the game early on, but I think he finds himself as that 4th receiver. Joe Brady, obviously the former LSU OC, runs a pretty wide open offense that he loves to go 4 and 5 wide. So I think Shi Smith's going to be a really nice piece inside opposite DJ Moore pretty early in his career, and a guy who I think I would bet on him playing 10 years in the league strictly because of the way he attacks football.
Yeah, Smiths in Carolina seem to do pretty well. This is a side note, by the way, because we've talked about the Panthers a lot. And I know there's a lot of my fans that are tuned in that are also Panthers fans, right? Just regional. It just makes sense. With the Panthers, were you surprised they didn't go Justin Fields? And are you kind of surprised there? I guess they're sort of hitching their wagon to Sam Darnold, right? Does that surprise you at all?
I guess after they gave up so much for Sam Darnold, I wasn't totally surprised that they passed on Justin Fields. Now, I would have taken Justin Fields.
I would have taken him too. I like Justin Fields. I'm not even saying that from like I've studied his tape. I saw what he did to Clemson's defense, and I'm like, yeah, that's a baller.
And I think part of the problem is the NFL, especially front offices, are very much, when they watched Sam Darnold 3 years ago coming out of USC, they thought this guy has it. You get 3 years of him struggling in New York, and there's all kinds of excuses.
He also played for the Jets. I mean,
it's true. And
right.
I do think he's in a far better situation. If he is going to succeed, it will be here.
Right.
But it's hard to throw out the last 3 years of tape and justify passing on a guy like Justin Fields to do that. But I do appreciate that you can kind of see Carolina's plan between this draft, last year's draft. It's to get like star players on that defense and bring the offense over kind of slowly.
Yeah, you got to have somebody to help CMC. I mean, I think they put way too much on him, at least the last couple of years.
It's not realistic. Like, okay, he is obviously an incredible running back, but it's not realistic to be giving him 400 touches every year and expect him to hold up for a decade, right? Like, he can run for 1,000 yards. He can have 1,000 yards receiving in the same season. Incredible player. But you have to give him a break, or, I mean, we saw what happened this past season. The injuries kind of unraveled the season for him. And I don't love Sam Darnold. I think this is, if he is going to succeed, it will be now, because I think Joe Brady runs an offense that fits what Darnold does well. And I think that they have tons of wide receivers around him that can make plays, and obviously CMC.
Well, like you said, it's one of those things where we're going to find out, was it the Jets or was it Darnold? You know, like there's no excuse now to not have at least a little more success than you had in New York.